time and chronology. In 1948, the government tightened up and brutally enforced racial segregation policies, which is officially known as apartheid. Apartheid is an Afrikaans word which means apartments. The black South Africans and the white South Africans were segregated. The way in which the black South Africans and the white South Africans experienced apartheid is very different. Under apartheid, the white government only ruled the country and they held the positions of all the power. Moving forward to chronological events, we have the 1948, whereby the National Party represented the white population and implemented apartheid laws. This is the time whereby South African populations were classified into 4 racial groups, being the blacks, the whites, the Indians, and the colored. We also have the 1949 to 1950. This is a time whereby the apartheid laws were now enabled. We see this by the law of the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act of 1949 and the Immorality Amendment Act of 1950, whereby there was prohibition of interracial marriages. By interracial marriages, we are saying that you were not allowed to marry someone from a different race. You were only allowed to marry within your race. We also have the 1990, which is a time whereby now the apartheid system were now unravailing. This is a time whereby FW de Klerk announced the unveiling of ANC and the release of Nelson Mandela from prison. Moving forward, we also have the 1994. In 1994, this is a time whereby now the apartheid system was coming to an end. This is a time when Nelson Mandela was elected as the first ever black South African president. I will hand over to my fellow colleague who will be treating the causes and effects.
Greetings everyone, I go by the name of Lebogang and I'm here to explain the cause and the effect of apartheid in South Africa. I have 2 factors that I consider to be the major in causing the apartheid in South Africa. I have racial segregation. What is the racial segregation? It is the practice to separate or to keep away people with the different races apart from each other. And during apartheid time in South Africa, there was enforced racial segregation whereby the black people and the white people, they were not allowed to be mixed in the same place or to share same facilities, for example, like the toilet. This segregation was a major factor in causing apartheid in South Africa. Then I have another factor which is colonialism. A colonialism is when a country take control over another country. So colonialism also played a huge role in causing apartheid. From the year of 1652 to the year of 1806, South Africa it was colonized by the Dutch. Then from 1806 to 1910, the British took control over the South Africa. So this colonialism brought a negative impact to South Africans, whereby it introduced the land seizure, whereby the land of African indigenous people were taken over, and it introduced the slavery. Moving forward to the effect, the black people, they were not allowed to go anywhere without carrying their passes. This the pass law, it was enforced by the British. Then you have social justice movement. Because of the legacy of apartheid, there is a struggle between the social justice and inequality in South African society.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gamashin Keyes. I'm here to present about the historical evidence and the resources of apartheid in South Africa. So we have the first. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gamashin Keyes. I'm here to present about the evidence and historical resources of apartheid in South Africa. So we have the first-hand evidence, which is the primary resources of this apartheid in South Africa. So it was created back then during the apartheid era. So which was proposing that, which the first two documents that shows that this apartheid was back then, there. We have the Registration Act of 1950, which state that every South African resident must be classified and identified, whether a black, white, Indian, and colored. And we have the number 2 document, which is the Bantu Education Act, which was proposing this system of education, imperial or imperial education in the black community, and those that were disadvantaged back then. So, number 2, we have the speeches as an evidence of this apartheid. Speeches like figures of speeches that were given by figures like the Hendrik Verwoerd, who was defending this apartheid back then, and the speeches from Nelson Mandela, who was resisting apartheid back then. And we have an iconic image of Hector Peterson in the Soweto uprising in 1976. So this thing, they show that apartheid was back then alive those days. And we have the secondary evidence as the secondary resources of this apartheid in South Africa. We have books, we have documentaries as like movies like Sarafina, which was acted in remembrance of this Soweto uprising in 1976. We have the places just like the Johannesburg Museum of Apartheid in Johannesburg, Gauteng province. We have that theory or that mentality that back those days people used to go somewhere with a passbook, which was formerly known as Dompas by apartheid era. We have lot of things that we have some evidence that suggests that this apartheid was back then alive those days. As such as we have some places that are known for Boas town, as like Lichtenburg in the northwest province, Potchefstroom, Louis Trichardt in the Limpopo province. Those support that apartheid was alive back those days, where Boers terrorized places and lived there without black, color, or Indians living there. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Everyone, my name is Sukur Kuromu. So today I'll be talking about apartheid of South Africa. So first, I will start by defining what is apartheid. So according to Simons, 1959, apartheid was the system invented by the Afrikaner, whereby the Africans referred to as black were separated from the Afrikaner referred to as white people. So if you were not a fully Afrikaner, you were considered less mental, you were considered mentally and physically weaker, and therefore you were oppressed through apartheid laws. So since apartheid, there are various things that have changed after the apartheid. Firstly, which are in 1959, in 1995, human rights were addressed, and those who were victimized by apartheid were allowed to share their stories and seek justice. Moving forward to the new democratic constitution in 1996, whereby the new progressive constitution was adopted by South Africa, whereby people were granted equal rights, freedom rights, and human dignity. And those rights were protected by the Constitutional Court. In 1991, the apartheid laws came to an end, and this led to the democratic elections in 1994, whereby Nelson Mandela was elected as the new black president, symbolizing a change in the Democratic Party. Political transformation. ANC took power, focusing on building democratic government to promote unity and rebuild the nation, and local governments were reconstructed to promote service delivery and democratic participation. So, social and economic programs. So the government introduced a reconstruction development program referred to as RDP, and this program was invented, or should I say, introduced to alleviate poverty. So moving forward to the continuity. So even today, the legacy of racism still continue, whereby the racism that was created decades ago by apartheid still affect the African society even today, and the effect of discrimination still shapes opportunities and social relations.
Yeah.
And what we are still experiencing is political racism. Although ANC took power, there has been criticism that is not fully delivered to improve the lives of poorer South African citizens. And issues of corruption still affects the nation even today and undermine political trust. So, and the social challenges, problems such as unemployment, inadequate housing still affect many communities even today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Greeting to you all. I go by the name of Mr. Shongwane Tabisi. So I'll be dealing with multi-perspective. As multi-perspective, I'll start by explaining it. In terms of explaining multi-perspective, this is whereby we're talking about the integration and consideration of different views or opinions from different ethnic groups in the historical events of apartheid. So here we are going to talk about multi-perspective of different ethnic groups, which is South African ethnic groups, which is blacks, coloreds, whites, and also Indians, South African Indians. So here, this way, we are going to talk about how did they felt during apartheid, how did apartheid affect them. So like this is multi perspectives and opinions. Starting with black South Africans. Black South Africans were oppressed socially, economically, and politically. So this means that they were not able to go to public facilities, white-only public facilities. They were not able to go around socially in terms of when they need to go in town, they were oppressed in terms of they have to carry their tumpas. And then talking about Indians, also Indians were also discriminated, but they were much better than blacks. They were discriminated in terms of their race, and then also colored, they were also discriminated in terms of their race, because the coloreds, they were not able. Talking about coloreds were also discriminated in terms of their race, because they were not allowed to use public facilities such as toilets, and they were also commanded or enforced to carry their tumpas when they are going to maybe town or somewhere else in public. And then whites were talking about whites were considering apartheid as a way to preserve their social order, and then it was a way to secure their economy and then their political supremacy. As I wrap up, in terms of reflecting, to reflect everything that we've already learned with my students or learners, I would give them an assignment which would be based on multi-perspective of ethnic groups. So here, my learners or my students will be required to be in groups of 5. So in group of 5, they will be discussing different perspectives and different opinions in terms of ethnic groups during apartheid. And then another thing that they will do, they will debate based on different opinions of ethnic groups. And then, without wasting time, that is all from us as we are going. Thank you.